Hey, aloha, everybody. It is the 65th edition of Coffee with Coach. I'm your host, Jeff Reinebold. My co host, Michael, Magic Mike from Ireland, is with us today. Mike, are you there? Come on the stage and let's talk a little ball.
Can you believe we're live again, man? For the first
Hey,
time,
you know
like this
what?
must be the first time in 5 months
This
we're live.
this is the format. This is the format that we love the best because it's live, it's unedited, it's uninterrupted, it is unscripted, it is, you know, the way it should be. It's just talking ball, just talking football. I got my cup of Tim Hortons, and for all of you who have been to Canada, you know what I'm talking about. Tim Hortons is a legendary coffee shop all across North America now. Started in Canada, was started by an NHL hockey player, by the way, and started right here in Hamilton. They are huge sponsors of ours and big supporters of football all over North America. Hey, buddy, do you know we are 1 week away? 1 week away, my man, from
2 weeks,
end.
2 weeks,
No,
man.
no, no, no. See, you jumped the gun on me now. We're 1 week away from the end of training camp. Rosters will be finalized, and then we will really be able to sort through it, sort through the wreckage, sort through the rubble at the end of training camp, and start talking some serious football.
I've got big news for you as well, Jeff. You'll be glad to hear that comments are back. Look, comments are
Ah,
back.
hey, we got
So,
Claire de Bear in, the queen of Chicago Bears fans around the world. She's in. As you come in, hit us up. We'll get you on the screen. We're going to have a live and interactive show today. And again, always want to know where you're calling from. Fred Flunk, my man, is in from
and
Ireland,
it's
and
live.
he's giving a whole welcome back to the tribe. Owen Thomas is in. Mahalo, I appreciate that, Owen. Again, hit us and let us know where you're coming from. Dooney is in. Another
Couple of
one.
Irish in here, Jeff.
Irish fans. We got Irish fans everywhere, man. All right. Hey,
um,
cheers, Claire.
this is the thing, though, about going live, right? So, for example, I'm on a new system, so if my Wi-Fi goes down, it would be funny because I've been annoying you for months about that. It's good that Jeff isn't in Hawaii because every time you were in Hawaii live, it was like literally trying to land a spaceship or a drone on Mars. I felt like I was in NASA trying to make sure it worked. But we've got two good guests on tonight, Jeff. But obviously, before we bring the first one on, you're talking there about training camp. Did you see the news about Travis Etienne, or I can't pronounce his surname, the running
ATN.
back for the Jaguars? He's out for the
Yeah,
season.
yeah. That's tragic for
Brutal.
the Jaguars. That really does hurt. But again, we've watched this all through training camp, and we had it in our training camp, and we've had it through the early part of the season. Knees, ankles, Achilles tendons. You know, just it's really tough because this is a contact sport, and nothing gets you ready to play football like football. But there is a cost that goes with that, and soft tissue injuries are always, something to worry about. I was really surprised or interested to see that what's going on in Buffalo. They've got a little COVID outbreak in Buffalo right now, and Beasley's one of the guys that apparently is involved. I don't know. It's hard to get the real facts of it, but obviously they're having a COVID situation with the Bills, and again, they're not alone in the NFL with that.
It's just been announced as well in the last 5 to 10 minutes that basically media, apart from the team or club media, will not be allowed in post game to the lockers. And I don't think a lot of people are happy with that in terms of the media, but that's just the way I think it's going to be this season. And it's something that we're going to unfortunately have to be used to for a while because it looks as if it's going to be, obviously relevant, and hopefully everything's okay in Buffalo there. Fred Flunk was saying to you which team is leading the charge to have a COVID related issue mid-season. The Vikings, I mean, I don't know. I think it's actually going to come down to what city, or maybe, like, it just depends, Jeff. Maybe if there's another wave in a certain element or a certain part of America, maybe that could have an element. Or are you finding that in the CFL at the minute? I have no idea.
Yeah, I tell you what, we just went through a situation in the CFL where Edmonton was supposed to play Toronto this week, and the game
Mhm.
had to be postponed for a later date because 9 Edmonton's players, and again, you're talking about it's roughly a fifth of your team, 9 players tested positive for COVID. So they've got a situation out there. Obviously, this is something we're going to have to monitor and watch very closely. It is really going to be one of those things that, to me, I know that the Vikings have brought a specialist to training camp to talk to their team, to talk to their coaches about the importance of vaccination. Again, we're looking at, our team right now has 85% of our football players and staff fully vaccinated. It's not going to be good enough until we get to 100. I follow the stories in college football. Nick Rolovich, the head coach at Washington State, had refused to take the vaccine. That cost him an opportunity to go to the Pac-12 Media Day, put him in a direct, defiant position with the president of the university. The state legislature then came back and ordered him to get a vaccination. So again, I think that this is going to be an ongoing thing, and I hope that the guys will continue to be as diligent and smart as they've been and stay away from, scenarios where, and I know at any place is a chance, any place is a risk, but nightclub, bars, those kind of things, again, that's where you're going to get those situations primarily. Claire the Bear, what do you got to say, Claire? Throw that back up there, Mike. Jenkins for the Bears not starting the season because of back issues. There's a bunch of them. I mean, you look around the league, and there's a lot of players that are going to be on PUP or going to be on injured reserve, or we've seen guys cut with Duke Williams, receiver at Buffalo, who had 2 years ago had a breakout year. He played at Auburn, played up here in the CFL, went there, big 6'3", 230-pound receiver, had a real good year 2 years ago, was hurt a little bit last year. He just got released and released with an injury status, so they'll probably waive him and do an injury settlement with him. Again, there's another veteran player that, again, your body just didn't hold up, and again, he's on the street.
We've got our first guest, Jeff, tonight from the Transatlantic Sports Show, Anthony Wooten. Anthony, if I pronounced your surname wrong, I'm really sorry, but I'll bring him in, Jeff, and I'll see you soon.
All right, my man. Anthony, welcome to the show.
How you doing, Jeff? Look, dress for the occasion, my man.
You're killing me, man. You are killing me. Hey, I know you and I have had a chance to chop it up many times, and it's always fun when we talk football. I want you to, before we get into the football part of it, I want you to talk about your role, the transatlantic, and how that came to be. And I think it's a great story, and I want you to relate it to the tribe and everybody that's out there watching and listening tonight.
No, cheers, Jeff. Yeah, the Transatlantic Sports Show, it's what we all do. It's off the back of a passion, fundamentally. As you know, I've worked with the BBC. I've worked on documentaries about the sport we love of football, and that's how we met out in Hamilton, although you were at BC at the time. Covered the beautiful game of football for the BBC across the London games, and also work for Stats Perform. They provide the analytics for the NBC broadcast crew, and we produce data videos and sport videos globally to sport broadcasters across the world. So it's a varied job, but look, get to talk ball and get to cover ball. But yeah, the podcast, it's a passion project. It's a roll on from the stuff that we get to talk about, and working and getting to meet guys like you and great players as well. It just allows us to share those stories and the news from the NFL. And I'm very privileged to work closely with NFL UK and go to the games, cover the London games, both for radio and for the podcast and for Stats Perform. So providing the sport video news around the world, man. So yeah, it's great. And also do a bit of writing from time to time as well. So it's just loving football.
It's the best job in the world. When you can cover a game for a living, that's a pretty good deal. Hey, talk to us about, and because everybody's got a story. Everybody's story is unique. Everybody's got a pathway to fandom, because I think I speak for myself and everybody else that I know. We're all fans at heart, no matter what you're doing with the game, whether you're writing about the game, whether you're reporting on the game, whether you're playing the game, whether you're coaching the game. We're all fans of the game. How did you become a football fan, Anthony?
Oh, man. Well, I grew up in Winnipeg. So, look, I sat on the bleachers at the stadium there, the old stadium back in the day, back in the 80s, and just fell in love with this funky game. We emigrated out there. I was a toddler when we moved out, and I can still remember, you know what those warm summer nights are like in Manitoba, and just sitting there on a late July evening watching football, and looking out to the car park to the right of the stadium. We got the shopping mall polo park behind us as well, and just falling in love, just seeing these guys just going at each other at a very young age. And from there, I played Pop Warner football. And when I was playing Pop Warner football, it was in the 80s. And then, there was Joe Montana, there was Jerry Rice, Roger Craig, just leaving this lasting impression on me, and just fell in love with the game. It was, what's funny is growing up in Canada and following CFL, you've got 3 downs. And we always thought that the NFL, these guys, they got it easy. They got 4 downs. What's that all about? And we got 12 guys on the field and all that jazz and stuff. So, look, I think it was, definitely looking back, it was the beauty, the mystique of these gladiators on the field that left an impression at a really young age. And, I've got these memories of sitting in those bleachers, both on those warm summer nights, and then what it's like once fall or autumn comes, and it's certainly cold out there in Manitoba. And I've got a trophy here, Jeff. My Pop Warner Pee Wee champion, St. James Braves from,
there you go,
from
baby.
Winnipeg, 1988.
SJ Braves.
That's the one, man. And it was the game that where we won the tournament, the championship. It was November. It was Winnipeg. It was Manitoba. There was
frozen
no
tundra of Winnipeg, Manitoba. All right. So you dropped 3 names on me, and every single one of them was a San Francisco 49er. Do you have a little 49er in your heart?
Oh man, I believe
is that your club,
man.
Is that your club?
Man, that's my club. Look, I got Nick Bosa here. I've got a Joe Montana. I got a Steve Young as well, but Nick Bosa here. But yeah, I mean it's the 49ers. They've left that impression. Yeah.
All right, partner. Then I'm gonna throw some 49er stuff at you, and let's chop it up. Let's see what you think. Trey Lance or Jimmy G?
Oh man, I think if you look at it, we don't know what the ceiling is. It's a high ceiling with Trey Lance. We kind of know what the ceiling is with Jimmy G. Trey Lance, Kyle Shanahan is being very coy, isn't he, at the moment about him? But he's done nothing but impress. You look at the OTAs, and there are peaks and troughs with him. Of course there were. He's a rookie, but they invested so much in him. He went away for the 40 days between the end of OTAs and the mini camp to then the start of training camp. And then suddenly he came back, and everybody's like, wow. He had his first preseason game. And, there were rookie mistakes, but we've all seen the touchdown pass that he threw, the 80-yarder. And then we look at the preseason game on Sunday, and again, there's rookie mistakes. But coming away from that, and you listen to Kyle Shanahan, and it's about getting miles in the legs. And how do you do that? You've got to get him on the field. And he offers so much more than Jimmy Garoppolo. I love Garoppolo. I've got a Garoppolo Funko Pop somewhere as well. But I think if you look at it, and if you want to get those the training wheels off of Trey Lance, you look at their opening 2 games. They're both on the road. They've got the Lions. They've got the Eagles. I mean, there's no easy game in the NFL. But I think if you're going to ease somebody in, a quarterback of his skill set as well, then those are 2 opportunities there ahead of the 3rd game and the home opener against the Green Bay Packers, which are a completely different kettle of fish. So my answer would be, give the rookie a go, man. I don't think you've got anything to lose.
All right, now this is interesting because it's not just in San Francisco where you've got this phenomenon going on. You got Jones fans in New England that say, Mac Jones is ready. That he's the next Tom Brady. Yada yada yada. And I mean to tell you, and Claire the Bear needs to weigh in on this one, but in Chicago, it's almost, to me, it's incredible how much that city is behind Justin Fields. And here's the proclaimed starter goes out on the field for the 2nd exhibition game last week and is booed by the home crowd, and I'm going, man, oh man, oh man. The pressure is unbelievable on Nagy and that regime to get Justin Fields on the field. And I think it'll be very, very short time that the red rifle is out there. If he makes a couple mistakes early, I'm sure we're going to see Justin Fields early. I just think that the sentiment in Chicago is so stilted to get him on the field.
Yeah, they've got an exciting prospect, a rookie, a quarterback, and the fans are clearly excited from draft day. You know, you look at the potential of the rook, and I mean, it's telling as well, isn't it? He's going to be starting the third preseason game this weekend. So the pressure that's on Dalton. I mean, do you think he's got it between the shoulders to be able to handle that pressure, Jeff? Or
well, I think there's a couple of things at work. I think number one, Andy Dalton's a veteran, and he's seen it, been there, done it, got the T-shirt, the whole deal, and he's getting support from his head coach, and I think that's really important because Nagy really has not wavered from the fact that Andy Dalton's going to be our starter week one. Now, if Fields goes out and lights it up this weekend, but this is interesting, and I don't know where I sit on this one right now, Anthony, because typically in the old days when there were 4 preseason games, the first one was just to make sure you get out there and get a play called and line, and run it. The second, you'd game plan a little bit. The third, you'd really treat it as a regular season game. And then the fourth one was really more for the rookies and the young kids or any bubble guys that you were unsure about. Now with only 3 preseason games, this third preseason game, it'll be interesting to see how teams treat it. And if they're going to hold all their starters back or if they're going to let guys play. But if Justin Fields goes out there and lights it up and shows the kind of athleticism and, there were a couple plays when you watched him play last weekend that he missed a blitz, he missed a hot read. He did, there are a couple, but those are things that are going to happen with a rookie. But then he can make a very average offensive line look good because he can extend plays with his feet. And that's the dynamic that Andy Dalton doesn't have. And I think that the Bears, when you look at them offensively, they're going to need every playmaker they can get on that field because the defense is good enough to win some games for them. But they're going to have to score points. And, that's been a problem in Chicago lately.
Yeah, and the guy's got an arm as well. I think it's a similar situation to the 49ers and Trey Lance. You said there that the athleticism that Justin Fields brings to that offense. Again, Trey Lance, they're clearly holding back Trey from being able to use his legs because they don't want defenses to see what San Francisco have, that other element to their game. And we know what the Chicago crowd is like and the Chicago market is like as well. And they've seen the potential there at quarterback in Justin Fields. And to me, he was, one of the most exciting quarterbacks coming out of this year's draft. I'd probably put him at number 2 behind Trevor Lawrence, ahead of the draft.
Well, brother, you talked about the fans' expectation level. Let's roll some names out here. All right, Joe Montana, Steve Young, Jeff Garcia. I mean, they're used to elite level quarterback play in San Francisco, and I just if I'm a Niner fan, the play that's on loop in my head is Emmanuel Sanders in the Super Bowl in the last 3 minutes. Beaten bracket coverage, and he's wide open for a touchdown that would have won the game for him, or most likely won the game for him. And Jimmy didn't make the throw.
Didn't make it.
And I think that is in Shanahan's head, and I think it's in every 49er fan's head. This kid has the arm to make that throw. Now, I don't want to anoint him, but I'm excited for the future with Trey Lance in San Francisco.
The last Pro Bowl QB that the 49ers had was Jeff Garcia. So you're going back some time there. But, that throw. But you look at the weekend just gone in the second preseason game and the interception from Jimmy Garoppolo. You could see he forced the pass. He overthrew the pass. And, okay, the receiver and Shanahan had Garoppolo's back. I think he's going to do that in support of his quarterback. But he said that the receiver should have caught it. But if you look at that throw, you could see he was putting so much into it. And you think that he's got the pressure there because he's seen what the rookie can do and he's seen the arm strength that the rookie has in Trey Lance. And he's got that pressure on him as well. So there we were talking about the pressure of Andy Dalton, but Jimmy Garoppolo's got that as well behind him. And you look at the comments or hear the comments from the fellow teammates, and all of a sudden there's a lot of positivity around Trey Lance and the rookie. So he's won them over. So if that quarterback position, if Trey Lance is to become their starter, he's already won them over. They've got his back.
Well,
So
you know what?
it's an
Hey,
interesting
hey,
time,
bro,
man.
I tell you what, this is one of the things I tell players. Pressure does two things, and you're right. Garoppolo's under pressure, Dalton's under pressure, Cam Newton's under pressure with these young guys nipping at their heels. Pressure does one of two things: it either creates diamonds or it busts pipes. And
Yeah.
so we're going to find out what we're going to see in those three cities. Hey, fans, if you are you're out there listening and you want to throw a question at Anthony or throw a question to me, feel free to weigh in. We'll put you up on the screen at Coffee with Coach. Hit Magic Mike, and we'll have a question for you. Hey, Jay Dennehy 92. And again, we gotta get where you're coming from, fellas. We gotta have. I know Jay, you're a UK guy, but Trey Lance is nowhere near ready for the NFL. A few games in at least a year playing FCS. Oh, here's the big knock against the kid. Low level of play, in a non-Power 5 school. Really, only a year and a half of starting. Doesn't have a great body of work. How do you respond to it, Anthony, as a 49er fan and a Trey Lance fan?
2 words: Kyle Shanahan. I think you look at he's got a great offensive line. Trey Lance, I mean, there's some strong offensive linemen who haven't played. Alex Mack hasn't played in the preseason, isn't going to. Trent Williams isn't going to be playing this preseason. George Kittle as well, obviously one of the top 3 tight ends in the league. And you look at the arm strength that Trey Lance has, and just reading and hearing all the reports coming out of training camp, the guy has got it between the shoulders. He is studious. Apparently there's nobody else on the 49ers team who has topped him on. They can track, iPads and how long guys have been studying various bits of plays or whatever playbooks on the iPads. Nobody has topped Trey Lance on that. The guy is keen, so he's both studious, he's intelligent, and he's got the talent as well. He's got the legs, he's got the arm strength. So I don't think that I think there were definitely question marks, and when you look at the OTAs and the rookie minicamp, there were clearly some issues that he had to work with, and make some question marks about whether he would be ready for the season. But like I said, he went away for those 40 days between the end of minicamp and training camp. He studied, he worked with his receivers, he came back, and even Kyle Shanahan is like, wow. And you listen to John Lynch and what he has to say in the reports coming out from him as well, that he's certainly impressed, and he has developed a lot quicker. Matt Mayoko, who's been covering the 49ers for over a quarter of a century, has said he's never seen a rookie in training camp as impressive as Trey Lance is. And he listed, the rookies who have come through the doors of the 49ers during his time there. And he said just the developments and the football intelligence that Trey Lance has. So I don't think that college level is going to be too much of an issue for him. And like I said at the start as well, they've got the Lions on the road and the Eagles on the road. They'll be camped out east for the first 2 weeks of the season. And I think if you're going to want an introduction to the NFL, and you're going to want to, again, it's not easing him in, but it's going to be an easier game than coming up against the Green Bay Packers or the Seattle Seahawks, for example, or even the Indianapolis Colts in Week 5. Then he can find his feet against those teams. And you look at what those two teams have, both the Lions and Eagles on offense, and you look at the Niners defense, and there might be enough there. And there's enough for Kyle Shanahan to work on, and then to be able to ease Trey Lance in.
Okay, now that caller is a UK guy, but now presently living in Mexico City. So this is an international podcast, man. We're bringing it to you from around the world. We got Anthony Wooten from the Transatlantic here. We're talking all kinds of football, talking about the 49ers in particular. Dooney R, again, one more time, Dooney, you got to let us know where you're from, brother. He asked this question: have injuries to the lower body affected Jimmy G's ability to step into those deep throws? I don't think that's the issue. Again, I think Jimmy G is a guy that's gifted with enough arm. He doesn't have a huge arm. Like, he doesn't have, you talk about arm talent. He's somewhere probably in the middle of the pack, maybe a little higher than the middle of the pack. I just really think that what we have seen from him, and this is what this kind of dovetails to what you talked about, Anthony. I think Kyle Shanahan has done a great job with Jimmy G of protecting him, giving him things he can do, not asking him to do things he can't do. I think You look at the playoff run that they had, that was proof right there that they knew they were going to have to rely on the run and, kind of pick and choose their, when you have to make your throws and how you make your throws. But the reality of NFL football, the reality of pro football is at that position, it's really tough to win a championship if you can't make the big throw. And if you look at every single, I can't think of Trent Dilfer's probably the last Super Bowl winning quarterback that I can think of that you would say, I just don't know if he had to make a throw. Could he make that throw for you? And they were so dominant on defense and could run the ball so well. He didn't have to. But that's tough to do. I mean, that's tough to win a championship that way. And we saw Jared Goff go into the big game, and a lot like Jimmy G. He's serviceable in a lot of ways, but they just couldn't make the big throw at the big moment on the big stage, and that's what you're looking for. I'm going to go further east, and I want to hit the Jets.
Yeah.
Because I think Fields has a really, really bright future in front of him. And again, I think it's interesting. He's almost a complete opposite personality-wise from Sam Darnold. He's athletic. He's got some swagger. He's got a little bit of, he got a little bit of it factor about him. I worry a little bit what's around him, if there's enough around him to protect him. Not only when I say protect him in the offensive line, but weapons are what helps him. You talked about Trey Lance. You go out there and you got that group of receivers, that stable of running backs, that offensive line, and George Kittle. Well, you got a lot of protection around you. All right. Now, if you're the guy and there isn't much around you, I've seen that movie too many times with young quarterbacks. So I really do think that Wilson is going to be a very, very good quarterback. What's your take on that Jets situation?
I mean, you look at the second preseason game just the other day, and the guy's impressive. He's a baller, and I had question marks.
That's a great way to describe him. He's a baller. He is just a baller. Because I watched him at BYU against Navy, and he ripped them, and I said, okay, that's Navy, right? But then I watched him later in the year against better competition, and it's a great description, bro.
But there's a great story about him as well when he was at college, and I can't remember. It's not Deliveroo, but it's a similar service, and he worked his butt off to be able to make money, earn money, and pay his way through college. And he's got it upstairs. He seems studious of the game, and I think he's got a great coaching setup around him with Robert Saleh as his head coach. Here we go. It's 49ers homeboy, but he's got Mike LaFleur as well. He's another one of those key from the Kyle Shanahan tree. They brought in Tevin Coleman as a running back as well to I guess help carry the load, carry the rock. But there are question marks, I think, with the receiving core and the weapons that he has around him. But saying that, I think that he's shown, and I know you can question the opposition that he's come up against in the preseason, but he's another one who seems to have developed throughout training camp. Yeah. Some of those early reports, again, there were question marks around him, but he's shown it. He's stepped up, and he seems like a good dude as well. He may have the swagger there, but there's no arrogance there. No. He's a nice, honest, humble guy.
And there's a difference between swagger and arrogance. Right? Yeah. Swagger is knowing you can make plays and just going and making them, and arrogance is, I think it almost is the complete opposite, where you think you can do more than you can do, and you don't really have a grasp on your reality. Brother, it has been awesome to have you on the show. We got to get you back. We got to get
been
you
a pleasure,
back.
Man.
We'll talk some more, and always, every time I get a chance to sit down with you, whether it's in a pub having a beer or again across the ocean and on social media, it's always a pleasure, man. Keep doing your thing. Keep helping us grow this great game of ours, and doing such a great job reporting on the NFL.
Well, thanks a lot, Jeff. Thanks for having me on. And look, it's always great chatting to you, whether it's outside your locker room in Hamilton or over here, chatting on our various podcasts and stuff. So it's great, man. And look, my little brother, he's out in Hamilton. He walks his dog outside the stadium there, and he's going to be there for the first home game when is it? Next week? A week on Sunday, isn't it?
A week Sunday, Labor Day against the Argos. Tell him to look me up. I'll get him tickets.
Awesome, man.
All right, brother. Take care of yourself.
You too, dude.
All right, that is Anthony Wooden, and really a good dude and a real good football guy. And Michael, that was fun. Fun to talk a little 49ers and the young quarterbacks in the National Football League.
That was a good listen. I had no idea Anthony was Canadian
Yeah.
or from Canada. So that was great. It was good to put, I guess, a face to the name on Twitter as well. That's a really, really good Twitter account. Both Anthony's profile and the Transatlantic Sports Social. So definitely give it a look if you haven't seen it before and have a look. But there's another guy waiting, Jeff. So I'm going to disappear. Oh, yeah. People are putting comments in. We'll do it at the end. I mean, as long as Jeff doesn't have to go and do training.
I tell you what, and you know what? When if you get a good one, throw it up there, but don't throw it up there unless they tell us where they're hitting us in from.
To be fair, a few of them have said it at the start, and then it's grand. A lot of Irish. There's a lot of Irish viewers in this show. Yeah, like I didn't realize there's so many fans in Ireland until recently.
I think that's because of you, buddy.
Right. Anyway, let's bring the next guest on from Sky Sports. It's not Neil Reynolds, but it's very close to the real deal. Cameron Hogwood.
Cameron, welcome to the show, my man.
Jeff, how are you doing? It's good to be on. It's a pleasure.
I'm doing outstanding. Catch me up. The last time I saw you was last football season. Catch me up on what you've been doing and what's going on at Sky and where you're working and what can we expect in the when the season starts in earnest in 2 weeks.
Yeah, I was trying to think the last time I saw you, it must have been in the studio. I think I remember you coming up to me asking about what you were going to do with your show next, and we were kind of talking about how this would come, and here we are talking live on Twitter. But yeah, it's been a crazy year, obviously. Just kind of getting as many interviews as I can with obviously players being in lockdown. It was a good opportunity to hit them up and hit agents up because they weren't doing anything else. It was a good opportunity to talk to a lot of players. Managed to speak to a lot of really great people. Warren Moon was a highlight.
Awesome guy, isn't he? Awesome.
So cool. I mean, I get a bit starstruck every time I speak to people, but nothing like that level. I mean, for someone like as young as me who wasn't around to watch him play, to hear about his career and just the way he kind of sees the game was amazing. But yeah, getting ready for the new season now. Obviously, the channel's back. We've been kind of getting interviews in the bag, previewing the divisions. Division previews are coming out over the next few weeks. And we're getting excited, and it kind of feels like it's here now after a bit of a long wait. It feels like the last few months have dragged a little bit, but we're finally getting there.
All right, brother, tell me again. Now, so this is a question we ask everybody that's a guest on this show because we're all fans, right? Tell me how you got into football and who's your club.
It probably sounds like a bit of a cliche answer, but I mean, I think I got back into the game about 2014. So I must have been about 17, 18, probably 17.
Oh,
and
wait a second now. You are killing me. You got started in 2017, right? You said, or 14?
About 2014, yeah.
And you were how old?
I'm just turned 24. Just turned 24.
Holy shit, you're not even shaven yet. What the heck? I tell you what, you are a rising star, my man.
Yeah, doesn't help. I've got a bit of a baby face, so yeah. But it's funny, actually, a funny story. I remember getting into kind of writing about the NFL and covering the NFL. One of the first podcasts I listened to was obviously yourself and Neil, and Inside the Huddle. I remember I sent in a question one day, and when you read out my question, it was like Cameron Hogwood, and then because my name, I get the whole Hogwood thing the whole time. And so I always remember that story. I was like, oh man, one day I'm going to meet Jeff and I'm going to be like, I have to tell him that story.
That's awesome. That's awesome. All right, now tell me, you dodged the bullet there. You're not you haven't told me who your team is now.
Yeah, so 2014, the year OBJ came into the league. I mean, that was part of why I became a Giants fan. I kind of thought, where would I like to visit in America? I'd never been to America, and New York was where I wanted to go. So the Giants were the first landing spot, and I loved Victor Cruz. He was kind of someone I was obsessed with watching. So yeah, Giants.
Can you salsa? Can you salsa like Victor?
Not like Victor. No.
All right, so you're a Giants fan. Love those G-men, right? Let's talk a little G-man football, right?
Let's do it.
All right. First of all, are you a Joe Judge guy or a not?
I'm 100% a Joe Judge guy. I think
All right.
after
Tell me why. Tell me why.
the last few years, I think for a while under Ben McAdoo, I think we were going in a good direction. I think always after that Tom Coughlin era, it was going to be a challenge whoever came in and had to kind of steer that ship where people weren't sure where the franchise was going. And Ben McAdoo did well. We got to the playoffs. Obviously, it was a good year. Even though we got to the playoffs, it still didn't feel like it was maybe deserved. It didn't feel like we maybe deserved that playoff berth that year. It felt like that defense carried us quite a lot. And then Pat Shermer as well. As much as I liked Pat Shermer, I just didn't feel like the way he kind of brought the team together wasn't maybe right for the time. Probably right guy, maybe wrong time. And the way Joe Judge has come in, I just love the mentality, everything he's brought to the franchise in terms of this hard-hitting football. People are enjoying watching the Giants again, and it's so much easier to root for this team than maybe 3 or 4 years ago now. And just the kind of discipline he's brought into training camp. We saw the other day when there was the brawl between teammates, kind of the way he went about that was just, I'm the boss. You're listening to me. If you don't want to be here, you can go. These are my rules. And I kind of love that. And it seems like everyone's bought into it. And I love his mentality. I love the laps. I love kind of the nutcracker drills in training. And yeah, I just love everything he's brought so far.
All right. I have a very close friend on that staff. Thomas McGahee, the special teams coordinator, is a good friend of mine. And I had Thomas on this show, and we talked about the Giants, and I asked him about Joe Judge. I said, hey, you're a special teams coordinator. Joe was a special teams coordinator in New England. What's your take on it? And this was before training camp last year, right? It was one of the first shows we did. And he described Joe Judge this way. He said, Jeff, Joe Judge is a star, a freaking star. All right. And what he was saying, not a star like OBJ was a star. He really sees him as a rising star in the business, a guy that's going to have a long, successful head coaching career. And it's interesting. And, you know, Cameron, I did the Super Bowl, the last Super Bowl that the Patriots were in. And, you know, you go into those interview rooms and like they're table spread all over the place, and all the superstars are up on the podium. Like Brady's got 9 million people around him. And I looked over and there was 2 coaches from New England sitting all by themselves, right? One was Joe Judge and the other was Steve Belichick. So I said, well, this is awesome. And I can go over and I can talk ball with these guys. And I mean to tell you, Joe Judge was like, I mean, you talk about wired tight. I mean, he was like, the intensity just dripped off of him. And I thought to myself, if this guy ever gets a chance and he ever goes someplace, because guys like him, there's going to be a backlash a little bit at first, right? Until the players do buy in. Yeah. And he has to go someplace where they believe in him and we'll give him a chance to work through that, which we saw last year in their training camp. And I really think he's done a phenomenal job with that football team.
Yeah. I remember I spoke to Xavier McKinney last year, just after he come out of the draft, and he's kind of talking about, obviously he's come from Bama and Joe Judge was kind of part of that Nick Saban coaching stuff. And I said to him, did you kind of see any similarities when you came in? Your first impression of Coach Judge is like, it almost felt exactly the same. Obviously 2 different footballing minds, but the setup, the discipline, the way they went about kind of day-to-day life was exactly the same. And he kind of felt like he settled in seamlessly. And I think that, I mean, to be kind of from a Nick Saban coaching tree, it can only be a good thing for an organization that kind of needs to get back on track and find who it is.
Well, I think it's really interesting. And you bring up a real good point. Joe's a young guy. I mean, he's young in the business. He's really only had 2 pro jobs. He's been with New England and he's been the head coach of the Jets. And before that, he was with Saban at Alabama. What 2 better guys to learn and model from than Belichick and Saban? I mean, they're great friends. They're very similar in a lot of ways, very different in some ways, but very similar in some ways. And I think he has taken the best of both guys and kind of put it in his own personality in his own way. So I think you know the Giants are very lucky to have him. What's the latest you hear on Saquon?
I mean, kind of coming out of camp, they've been really cautious with him, and I think the signings of Devontae Booker, kind of Corey Clement, kind of told us that that would always be the case. They kind of maybe thought that he wouldn't be full ready to go week one. Maybe he is ready for week one, but it won't be 100% Saquon Barkley. I think that they're meant to start a few starters against Patriots this weekend. I'm not sure he'll be involved, but they've been very, very cautious by the sounds of kind of the noise coming out of camp.
All right. I think another guy that really it's so tough when we talk about players, because you say, okay, they like Tua's getting a lot of pressure. You got to make that step in his second year and all that stuff. But Daniel Jones is a guy that, I think really, if he can take a step this year, and it's been tough for him. I mean, you think about that. Think about what his career's been like in New York, right? First, there's not enough players around him. Then he gets Saquon hurt. Then, Solder opts out, and they've had all kinds of problems in the offensive line. But I really think the kid has what it takes, and if he can make the step, if he can, and I'm not talking about he's got to be a superstar quarterback, but I really truly believe if he can take another step, be more productive, protect the ball better. Again, I don't. He's beyond a game manager. I really truly believe that, and I think that's going to be a real interesting thing to watch early in the season with the Giants.
Yeah, I was kind of started writing a piece today about kind of quarterback OC marriages this season, and I think Jason Garrett and Daniel Jones is maybe one of the top 5 most important in terms of for a team value and from a team perspective, because if Jason Garrett can kind of get the best out of Daniel Jones, I really do think he has talent. He's so athletic. I don't think that rushing, kind of that threat of his legs gets enough credit. I mean, we saw it in glimpses last season, but I'd love to see that as part of like a package, part of the scheme, that we see Daniel Jones running on a regular basis alongside the throws that we know he can make. It's just that ball security has let him down. You say as well, there's been so many problems with the offensive line, but from Nate Solder up to now, Andrew Thomas didn't quite have the rookie year maybe people wanted him to. He finished really strongly, but the start was a bit of a struggle for him. And obviously injuries galore all over the team. I do think he's had it tough, but he won't make any excuses for himself. But
that's one of the things I like about him. That's one of the things I like about him. He's not an excuse maker. He doesn't doesn't bitch about his teammates. Doesn't play calls, all that stuff. I think he's got the great leadership skills. And again, go ahead and finish, because I didn't mean to cut you off, but I thought you were
no, it's okay.
Right on there.
I was going to say, and like you mentioned, I agree with you. He has had it tough. I mean, he's made mistakes, and he knows that the ball security has been an issue. But I think Dave Gettleman went out this year, and rightly so, put talent around him, and hopefully that will kind of pay dividends this season. I mean, Kenny Golladay is that contested catch guy who we've been crying out for, that can go up and make a play out of nothing. If Daniel Jones doesn't quite throw the right ball, he's a guy that can still come down with it. And Kadarius Toney is someone who's going to be a moving part around the line of scrimmage that will kind of force defenses to check themselves. It won't make it so easy to throw 5-man rushes at us if we have a guy like Toney kind of running right with these jet sweeps and kind of motioning left to right. And if Saquon's there as well, we lost Saquon Barkley in week 2. That was a huge part of this offense to kind of support Daniel Jones, and to have him back, and Kadarius Toney and Kenny Golladay. John Ross is an over-the-top guy who will keep defenses honest that we maybe haven't had in a little while. And Sterling Shepard, I think, is great. Sterling Shepard is maybe one of our most important players, because he gets what Joe Judge brings to this team. And we saw kind of down the stretch last season, he's not only a really good yards after the catch guy, but he also can be used out of backfield if needed to.
Yeah, that's why I say you look at what's around him, and there's a supporting cast now that he's never had. I think Hernandez is coming into his own now. When they drafted him out of UTEP, I thought big, strong brawler, but it proved true. His first 2 years in the league, struggled in pass protection. He saw a whole different kind of pass rusher inside in the National Football League, as opposed to in Conference USA where he played UTEP. But it still is that brawler in the run game, and he adds a toughness factor that I know Gettleman loves. Let's talk about that defense. And again, they don't get the credit that they deserve. And I'm going to tell you something. When you look at them piece by piece, they're not that good. I mean, they're not that good. They're not a team that you go out and say, I'll take that one, and that one, and put them on my team. But Patrick Graham has built them into a defense that plays extremely well together, really fundamentally sound. And it'll be interesting to see what they get this year out of a defense that I thought was phenomenal down the stretch last year.
I mean, Dave Gettleman could not have landed on his feet better with kind of Blake Martinez and James Bradbury. I mean, they were phenomenal last year. James Bradbury was maybe one of the top 5, top 10 corners in the league easily by the end of the season. I thought just came up with huge plays and always put himself against the number 1 receiver every week and did an excellent job. And we kind of bring in Adoree Jackson now, and Xavier McKinney had such a disrupted rookie campaign, didn't come into it until the back end of the season. He's going to add something to the secondary that will fit Patrick Graham's plans perfectly, because he can drop into coverage, he can fill the box. He's so versatile, and that's what this Patrick Graham defense is all about. And it's so fun to watch. And we've had the added bonus of Leonard Williams kind of emerging. Dave Gettleman got all this stick for this in-season trade for Williams and didn't quite pay off to start, but now he's come into his own and looks a real elite pass rusher at the moment. And someone as well who doesn't quite get the credit they deserve is Dexter Lawrence, who is an outstanding football player in that interior and a really big part of what they're trying to do there.
I agree with you. Hey, fans, if you want to get a question to Cameron, you want to get a question to me, go ahead and hit us, and Michael will put them up. Cameron Hogwood from Sky Sports NFL and I are here to take your questions. And then I'm going to go here in a second. Shutdown cover says, what do you think the Saints ceiling is, and with no Breeze and Jameis and Taysom competing from the UK? That's another UK question. All right, you want to take it or you want me to take it?
Go on, you go first. I'll let you take the Jameis question first.
Okay, I have never been a Jameis Winston fan. I'm just going to say that right up. Again, all the way back to his senior year at Florida State, I thought inaccurate, threw too many interceptions, all the things we saw at Tampa Bay. I'm not talking about the off-the-field stuff. I'm talking about what I saw as a quarterback. Now, how much can Sean Payton help him develop as a quarterback? I think him getting away from Tampa, getting away from Florida, you were a Florida State Seminole, you're a Heisman Trophy guy, all that stuff, and you're you're playing right in your own state. Way, way, way too much shine, way too much pressure. He can go to New Orleans. He can learn by watching Breeze. I think we'll see a better Jameis Winston this year. I think he will be the starting quarterback, because I think one of the things Peyton likes is having Taysom Hill as kind of like that, that X factor that he can mix in. I don't know if he wants him to necessarily be taking 60 snaps at quarterback, but if he can take 15 or 20 in situational stuff and play a little wide receiver, play a little fullback, do all that, I think then that really fits what Sean wants to do. But this Saints defense is outstanding. Now, they lost some pieces from last year, but I still think they've got one of the elite defenses in the National Football League. It's just going to come down, I think, to whether the young receivers develop. They got an outstanding offensive line. They got Alvin Kamara, who, for my money, is one of the top 5 backs in the National Football League with all he can do. So I think the Saints are certainly going to be in the conversation for the playoffs, or should be. But I could also see them, going 10-7 this year too. I think that they're capable of both of those two kinds of seasons.
Yeah, I'm not one to overreact to preseason, but obviously we saw Jameis had a good night last night in preseason. But I never thought there was a real competition between Jameis and Taysom Hill heading into the offseason as much as they maybe said it was. I'd never envisioned Taysom Hill starting in week 1. I always thought it would be Jameis Winston's job, even though I'm a little bit like you. I've never quite been a fan of Jameis Winston, purely because of those interceptions and kind of that lack of security that he offers. But as someone we kind of saw has been in the news lately, Adam Troutman, hopefully he's good to go, and maybe looks like he's avoided a serious injury. He could be a huge part for whoever does start a quarterback. I mean, they lost Jared Cook, and Josh Hill is no longer there, so they need that tight end security and that security blanket in the middle of the field. Absolutely.
Troutman, that's why they drafted Troutman so high, is he was going to be, this kid comes from, I think, Dayton. He comes from a small school, and they drafted, and a lot of people said they overdrafted him, but I think the raw piece of clay is there, and now it's just a question of how much he can develop in that offense.
Yeah, for sure. I think they traded up for him, didn't they?
Yeah, Yeah, that's why I say there were a lot of people said that they overdrafted for him. If you got another one, throw it to a shutdown corner. Thank you for that question again. Now we got Brandon, 1994. He's a Dolphins fan from Edinburgh, Scotland. Looking forward to seeing Tua's progress. Waddle looks electric. I think that's going to be something to watch in South Florida. You know, this fascinates me, right? Because everybody is on Tua's tail about he's got to push the ball down the field. He's got to push the ball down the field. The object of the game is to win the game. I sound like Herman Evers, but the fact of the matter is you play to win the game. You don't play. I mean, if you throw the ball deep and you complete it, that's great. But you get picks and you force the ball and you get into long down and distance situations. It's complementary football that you're looking for. Now, what I think Tua was guilty of, if you can say guilty of last year, Cameron, was that he might have been a little too cautious with the ball. And I think that's what Fitz kept trying to get him to understand. Hey, listen, when you got single outside and you got a mismatch, just throw it up and let your guy go try and make a play. That's not the way Nick Saban quarterbacks are coached, right? And I think it's going to be interesting to see. It's not like Tua's afraid to throw it deep, but I do think that how much he develops is going to be a key for the Dolphins.
Yeah, I wrote about Tua a few weeks ago, and I kind of looked back at that Raiders game where he kind of came out in the second half, and there was a throw that he missed. It was to Mike Gesicki down the seam, and it was on, and he kind of overlooked it. And I thought maybe Tua from a couple of years ago would have let loose there. And then Fitz came in and made the exact same throw on the exact same route. I always kind of go back to it, that the injury, I think, played such a huge part in not just physically, but that mental quickness. Maybe he wasn't quite as sharp as he would have been had he had not that injury. Because always in the back of your mind, you're thinking, I've had such a long time out. And I say a lot, but this was a car crash injury he had, not a football injury.
Yeah.
And it was kind of an anomaly for football. And I always pay massive respect to Tua for even playing. I said at the start of the season, I didn't think he had to play at all. I thought he could have sat the entire year behind Fitz and come in this year with a fourth season behind him, fully fit again with the injury completely out of sight, out of mind, and have done a good job. But so I take my hat off to Tua for even playing.
Well, he's a Hawaii kid, and his little brother Talia, who's a quarterback at the University of Maryland right now, is an outstanding player. They were great players at St. Louis High School, and you're right. For him to even play last year was an act of courage. To have to come back from it, that hip was so bad. And but I want to talk before we go through the last little game I'm gonna play with you, Cameron. I want you to talk about how our listeners, our viewers, can catch you at Sky Sports NFL and subscribe to the stuff that you put out and listen to what your takes are. Because let me tell you something, this is a guy that knows what he's talking about. He's a young guy that doesn't even shave yet, but he knows ball.
Yeah, so you can get me at Twitter on at @ch_Sky Sports. I'm always writing a lot of feature content. I'm always enjoying writing about football, and I write about it as much as I can. I'm actually got a few interviews lined up. I'm interviewing Cardinals running back Chase Edmonds at about 1:00 tonight. So that's something to look out for. We've got a bunch of season previews coming out on Sky Sports NFL on the website. So yeah, just keep an eye across Twitter and the Sky Sports website, and you'll probably see my stuff there over the next few weeks and months.
And let me tell you, fans, and I'm serious about this. This guy is one of the really bright young writers that I know. He's done a great job at Sky Sports. He ain't going to be at Sky Sports very long, so you better catch him while he's there. All right, now that I've said all that good stuff about you, now I'm gonna put you under the spotlight.
Oh no!
All right, we play a game on this show. It's a little word association game, right? And I give you a name, and then you have to tell me in a very short sentence the first thing that pops up into your mind. Right?
All right.
Now you got to remember, we don't have the ability to edit anything here, so whatever you say will be kept forever.
Oh,
right?
great!
Let's start. Tom Coughlin.
Giants.
Okay. Dave Gettleman. You are the first guy that's ever played this game that came with a hand sign. Daniel Jones.
Progress.
O.C. Umenyiora.
Legend.
Let me go. There was one other that I wanted to hit you with. Oh, shoot. Fran Tarkington's one. Okay. Now, you see, you young guys, you better know your football history now. Fran Tarkington.
Icon.
All right. Y.A. Tittle.
History.
All right. Hey, I tell you what, man, you got it. You know them all. You know them all. Cameron, it has been a blast having you on the show. Right? We got to do it again during the course of the year. And again, fans, check him out. You can catch him on Twitter. You can catch him at Sky Sports NFL, on the social media. And again, he is one of us at Sky Sports that works real hard to help grow this great game of NFL football in the UK. And again, Cam, I appreciate everything that you do. And again, thank you very much for coming on and talking about that love affair you have with those New York Giants.
Jeff, it's been a pleasure. I really appreciate you inviting me on. It's been a real pleasure. Thank you.
All right, man. Thank you very much.
Take care.
All right, that's Cameron Hogwood from Sky Sports NFL. He does an outstanding job with the social media over there. We've had great questions tonight. It's been a lot of fun. We're back live, an hour-long live show. Michael, outstanding job. Thank you for getting those questions up for us. How's things in Denver? Give me the straight.
No, I'm not giving you any. I'm not giving you any. By the way, can I just apologize to Cameron for cutting them off mid goodbye? He was like, "Thanks," and I just so sorry about that. I'm not talking about the Denver Broncos this week because it looks as if they're actually going to put Teddy Bridgewater on. So I don't understand why they invest in a quarterback for 2 or 3 years. I just don't see the point. Like, I'm not against Teddy Bridgewater, but why not put Drew Lock in first? It just seems as if George Payton and Big Fangio had it all planned out for February. So I don't really want to. Let's just wait and see what happens. It's a bit embarrassing though. They're going to game 3.
I sense some real animosity right there. Some real angst. All right, you can sit and stew in that for a little bit. Jono 853 says it's been good listening to you from Wellington, New Zealand during our lockdown. So again, part of the tribe in New Zealand, we got Maori members of the tribe. Has hit us, Jono. It's always great to have you with us each week when we do this. Again, you and everybody else around the world who watches this show. Now let's get back to those Broncos. Okay, how many are going to win? How many can you win?
I don't know. I mean, the Broncos actually start the season against the Giants in MetLife, and then they play the Jaguars in Jacksonville, and then they're back in Denver. I'm concerned.
That's not a number. That's not. In case you don't know, that's not a number. I'm gonna hold you to this, even though you're my friend. I got to put the screws to you.
I love that you just say that I'm your friend. Jets week 3. Right. Anyway, I just want to see your face for this, right? I don't know if it's home or away, right? Week 4, Jeff. The Ravens. Week 5, the Steelers. Week 6, the Raiders. Week 7, the Browns. Week 8, Washington. There could be a buy-in here. Week 9, the Cowboys. Week 10 is a win against the Eagles. Week 11 is the Chargers. Week 12 the Chiefs.
I think that is a stretch of tough games, buddy.
I think honestly, maybe 7 and 10.
Okay, all right.
I think
you call it 7 and 10.
We'll if it's 8 and 9 or if it's 9 and 8, it's still not going to get you in that division. You're not going to get from the AFC West.
I tell you what, man, you have really you need to go have a what is that dark beer you drink? Guinness. Yeah, you need to go have a Guinness, man.
There's a comment from Fred Flunk.
Yeah. Fred Flunk from Ireland asked us. Fred is always good for a great question or a great take every show.
11 p.m. question.
After he called Kirk Cousins ass, would you be worried about Everson Griffin disrupting team unity now that he's re-signed with Vikings? Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. There's stuff that's said, things that go on in the locker rooms, and you know what? all that stuff. You don't have to like them. You don't have to be a friend. You don't have to go hang out with them. You just have to be able to do your job. And so I'm sure that Kirk Cousins is glad to have Everson Griffin back, and I'm sure Everson Griffin is glad to have Kirk Cousins as a quarterback. And I think that's the way it'll be in Minnesota. I don't see it as a divisive factor.
Yeah,
Well,
just before we go, mate, just before we go, I know Cameron's gone now, so we can say this publicly. You're on BT Sport again this weekend. Again, 3 weeks in a row, you're on BT
Well,
Sport.
I tell you what, we better win one on BT Sport because I tell you, BT Sport hasn't been very good to us yet. We can't keep guys healthy. We've got
You're
so
the only
many.
team on the CFL that's been on 3 weeks. It's unbelievable. You're on again this week. And is it Saturday morning, Sunday morning? Yeah.
No,
For
it'll
us
be
anyway.
it'll be Sunday morning or Saturday morning for you guys. But
Saturday morning for it's Friday night for you. Yeah.
we've got the outstanding offensive lineman in the year of the year 2019. Played 10 plays so far this season. We've got 6 starters still out as we head into week 3 from preseason. And that's what happens with those long layoffs. So we got to get healthy, but we got to get a win, and we got to get healthy and get a win and get going because we usually play an 18-week schedule. It's a 14-week schedule now. So 2 of them are done. We got 12 more to go.
I'm praying for you. I hope it works. I'm gonna be honest with you. I'll probably not be watching. It's too late for me. I'm racked, man. I watched far too much preseason last weekend, and I am struggling. I still feeling the effects of it.
Hey, but you know what? What get your sleep, get yourself ready to go because we will be right back live again next week. It'll be the 66th episode. Thank you very much, everybody that called, everybody that tweeted, everybody that got into the show. We're live again next week. Mike and I will be here, and we will be talking ball and drinking coffee and, again, laughing and having fun. So for everybody, aloha, and we will see you next Tuesday.
See you next week, the week before the season starts. See you then.